my skin so gorgeous. We thank the life gorgeous. Thank the life gorgeous. I love the life gorgeous. Its torso is so tight.
Welcome to Life Gorgeous, Craig Kilborn. And as everyone knows, I'm a Timberwolves fan. I get to talk to the voice of the Timberwolves, Allan Horton, radio and television. Nice to see you, young man.
Craig, it is great to be on with you. I appreciate the invite. Glad we can make this happen.
First timer, that means later he'll do his top 5 movies of all time. If he says Barbie, I will probably end the podcast immediately. But let's just wait and see. How many years? Over 20 with the Timberwolves?
This is 19. This is season 19. So I started in 2007.
Okay.
Yep.
That's great. And you were doing mostly radio, which is different than television because you don't want to paint the full picture for television. This year, because of Michael Grady's national schedule, you're doing a lot of television games. How many games this year on television?
I think it'll work out to, there's 15 exclusive for national TV. That's when ABC or ESPN or NBC gets the exclusive. So there's no local. So there's 15 of those right off the bat. And then I think I'm doing 40 to 45 TV and then 20 to something radio. So it's been interesting going back and forth, 3 or 4 games on TV, then back to radio for 2, then back to TV for 3 or 4, because it is a different medium. And radio, you're moving a little quicker, you're talking a little faster, you're just trying to describe as much as possible without giving people too much and inundating them with too much information. But TV, you can kind of lay back, the picture tells the story, and then it's about setting up my partner Jim Peterson for the kind of analysis that he's so good at doing.
If you do when you do it on radio, it seems like you don't use a color analyst, but it would be very difficult because there's not much space for a color analyst on radio, correct?
Yeah. So Jim will occasionally join me on radio through the years when there's some sort of exclusivity and he doesn't have another commitment, or maybe he's not on a certain road trip that's a radio game. But he's joined me in the postseason the last few years. And what he's so good at is recognizing the medium he's on. So he knows on TV he's got some more space. He can talk through a play because people can see what's going on. But when he gets to radio, he started in radio back in the early 2000s with the Timberwolves. And so he knows those small windows. And when he comes to radio, he'll compact what he says and really narrow it down into, sometimes you only have 15 or 20 seconds. Sometimes you might not be talking for 3 or 4 plays if it's end-to-end action.
Yeah. And just to mention, I've said this many, many times, and a lot of people echo it. Jim Pete, no matter who he's working with, he's always the same and he's always great because he'll say things exactly what I'm thinking. Like, Julius Randle might get tunnel vision going one-on-one and not kick it out to Nas or different things. He kind of, the old expression tells it like it is. It must be a joy to work with Jim Pete.
Yeah, and I've got such a good relationship with him that was one thing I didn't have to worry about jumping to TV this year is having chemistry with him and making sure he's got the right questions being asked to him. He doesn't need any of that, Liz, because you're right. And a great example was last night. The Wolves played the Dallas Mavericks, and the ball was moving in the first half, zipping around. It was almost an assist on every field goal. But then those assists dried up, and he mentioned, it looks like the Wolves have gone into more isolation. That ball movement has dried up, and that's when Dallas started to make their comeback. So you're right. He points out the things that everybody is seeing for their own eyes.
I think I have a guess, and I'm going to ask him because I'm going to have him on. I had him on once, but because he coached, he played, but he was a power forward. And you don't necessarily think power forwards are going to know so much about the game, the nuances. But I think because he coached, it helped him understand a lot of different stuff. So we're recording this on Saturday. This is before the Philly game. I'm going to talk Wolves in a second. I want to go back to you. The thing about play-by-play, and I think guys like you take it for granted, you guys have voices that can go full 4 quarters. You guys have strong voices, these play-by-play guys. And I know really good studio hosts that can't do play-by-play. Do you take your voice for granted that you have a strong voice that can, not yell, but get very excited for over 2.5 hours.
Yeah, I guess we probably do, especially when you've been doing it as many years as I have. You just kind of you come to expect that your voice is going to make it. I will notice when we go to an overtime game, especially on radio where you're talking a lot, an overtime game or a playoff game, and maybe even a double overtime in the regular season, you really feel it after that because you're so conditioned to make it through those 4 quarters. Then you get to this extra 5 minutes, which is even more intense than the first 4 quarters. It really does take its toll. So you probably do take it for granted. I try to drink lots of water. I probably should drink more tea than coffee, but that hasn't really been the case. So you try to take care of it the best you can, but it really is about conditioning. And it's like, anything else that you do in life, you do it enough, you become comfortable with it. And the voice has just kind of always been there.
Yeah. No, they're guys I know famous guys I won't mention who do studio, and they've told me, they go, my voice is too thin. It can't wear by the third quarter. It's just like, it's too light. The other thing I've noticed about you, which I really enjoy, is you are a stat guy and you love stats. And I'm a big basketball fan, NBA fan, and I'm obsessed mainly with field goal percentage. I go crazy that Cat shot 54% his first 3 years. I was excited when we got Ayo. We're going to talk about Ayo Dosunmu in a second, but I also loathe turnovers. So those are the stats I look at: field goal percentage and turnovers. Are you have favorite stats that you look at after a game?
The one reason I love the stats most is that I think it helps. I think it helps tell a story. It helps interpret what we're seeing out there on the floor. Everybody can see what's going on, or if they're listening on radio, they hear what's going on. But then the stats help put things in perspective to me. And when you look at stats that you can compare all 30 teams to, like, back when I started in 2007, we really weren't talking about offensive and defensive rating. It was more about the points you score and the points you give up. But what wasn't being taken into account is the pace that teams are playing at. Portland was a great example. Back in the day under Nate McMillan, they played really slow. And so their points per game were really low, like 98 points a game. And everyone's like, well, they're one of the worst offenses in the league. But no, they weren't. They were actually very efficient. They just played fewer possessions per game than their opponents.
Yeah.
And so I think stats like that help tell the story. So turnovers per game, tough to rank all 30 teams. But if you look at turnover percentage, the percentage of possessions out of 100 that every team has, who turns it over the most, that tells the better story. And what I try to do is, if I'm going to mention something like turnover percentage or turnover rate, same thing, I'll say, hey, they're turning it over on 18% of their possessions. On average, that equals 17 turnovers a game. It's close to even. I mean, it's almost close to 18. But so I help try to, or the Wolves are 8th in offense and they're averaging 119 points a game. So I try to give the advanced stat and try to give it some context so that I know people who are listening can understand points per game. They may not understand. I think more and more people have an understanding now of offensive and defensive rating and some of the advanced metrics, but it's always good to give that refresher and give something they can compare it to.
Yeah, and you do it also on Twitter, on X. You put out stats, and I always enjoy those. I want to ask you, going back, you grew up in Massachusetts, is that correct?
I did, yes.
High school? What high school was that?
So I grew up in Western Massachusetts, upper northwest corner of Massachusetts, really on the New York and Vermont border. I was born in North Adams. I grew up in a much smaller town of Clarksburg, Massachusetts, which had no stoplights. And then we moved to a one stoplight town of Williamstown, Massachusetts. So in Williamstown was Mount Greylock Regional High School, which pulled from a couple of different towns, New Ashford, Lanesboro, and Williamstown.
Did you play high school ball?
I did. I played 1 year. I got to high school. I had gone through kindergarten through 9th grade. So I joined in high school in 10th grade. Played 1 year of JV basketball. In my eyes, in my mind, I half our team quit because of the coach. So the next year we stopped playing basketball. Like half our.
Well, he was a jerk or what?
Yeah, it's just let's just say he's not a great fit. I don't know that this was back a long time ago, so the rules were a little bit different. I don't know that. Let's just say I don't know that he would have been a viable coach in today's age. There would have been some things in his past that probably would have not made him be in that role. But I played mostly soccer and tennis growing up.
Is basketball, I mean, you do it for a living. Is it your favorite sport? Are you an NFL guy or what?
I when I was coming up, I always tried to enjoy, and I always have enjoyed as many sports as possible. And I didn't want to sort of pigeonhole, hey, I just want to make it to the NBA, because those opportunities are rare. I wanted to open up possibilities, not hone in on one, and maybe limit an opportunity to advance my career. And so I love football. I played hockey growing up a little bit. There's one sport I have not called is hockey, but I've called football, basketball, baseball. I always thought maybe an opportunity would come in the Olympic sports. When I was in Southern California, we did a handful of water polo games, which I found fascinating. And I always thought, hey, I've got to be one of the few guys that's called water polo on TV. Maybe I'll work in the Olympics someday. Right. But I didn't just hone in on basketball, although growing up in Massachusetts, in my teenage formative years, the Celtics were right there with Kevin McHale, Larry Bird, and Robert Parrish, that kind of dominated the landscape. So I was a fan of the NBA early on.
Who was your favorite player growing up? NBA player?
I was a Bird without a question. I mean, just watching him, getting a chance to watch him when those games would be broadcast to the western part of the state on WSBK Channel 8, and I mean, when those games were on, listening to Tommy Heinsohn and Bob Cousy describe the action and watching what Larry Bird can do, I just marveled at the way he played, and how he played the game the right way too. It wasn't just about scoring for him. He could beat you so many different ways, and sometimes it looked like he just found ways in his mind to beat teams on a Tuesday night in February during a long season.
I loved Larry at Indiana State when we all discovered him on the cover of Sports Illustrated. Then I kind of disliked him heavily because I was a Dr. J fan.
Oh yeah.
And some of us my age, like Jim Pete, we're the same age, and Doc was his favorite player. Chris Finch outside of Philadelphia, Doc was his favorite player. Yeah. Did you dislike Doc because you liked Larry and they were competitive in the 80s? Or
you know what? I didn't. There was that one incident where he and Larry got into it at the parquet floor, and I mean, they went at it. But I didn't have a disliking for Dr. J. I always appreciated, one of my favorite books to kind of pick up on the road during the season is Loose Balls.
Oh, Terry Pluto.
Terry Pluto, about the stories of the ABA. You could just open up a chapter and read it, and I've read it 100 times, but I love picking it up and hearing those stories of the ABA. So I would have loved to see Dr. J back in the Virginia Squires days, and I think he was unbelievable. But I think he was kind of toward the tail end when I was really getting into the NBA. I don't know what year he finished, but
he finished in 87.
Okay, yeah.
And I was obsessed with him. I was wondering, because you're younger than I am, so I didn't know if you got to see that those guys much, but in the early 80s.
I went to we were only being 3.5 hours away from Boston. We didn't get into the city a lot. But once a summer we'd go see a Red Sox game. Once a winter we'd see either a Celtics or Bruins game. Yeah. And my dad got tickets to the I'll always forget it because it was Super Bowl. It was Super Bowl Sunday, and the Patriots were in it against the Bears. So it was very exciting up until the game when the Bears absolutely destroyed New England. But on that Super Bowl Sunday, the Celtics always used to have an early NBA game. Yeah. And they played the Sixers in the Garden. We had tickets. It was just incredible, the atmosphere. And I think that was right during the heyday. So I think Barkley's there. I think Dr. J is there. Andrew Toney is there. I mean, that's one of the games that kind of stands out to me, just like being in that, because it's 10 below zero outside, but in the Garden, it's like 94 degrees. So everyone's stripped down to their T-shirts, just sweating and yelling. And I remember this is one of the reasons I got hooked on sports, was just the atmosphere. I remember yelling, and I'm like, man, I'm yelling and I can't hear myself yell. That's how loud it was. I was just like, wow, that is fascinating. That's something I want to have more of. Yeah.
I was fortunate to go to the old Boston Garden when I worked at ESPN. We drove over and we got to walk on the floor because we knew the PR guy. Well, I have to ask you if you went to Syracuse, correct?
I did. So undergrad, I went to Skidmore College, and then after that, I went out and was a ski bum for a couple of years in Jackson, Wyoming. And so then eventually I got serious. I had to get serious about things, and I went back to school to Syracuse for a 1-year master's program.
Well, Syracuse is legendary for everybody from Marv to Bob Costas, Greg Papa.
Yeah.
Mike Tirico,
ESPN.
Sure. So were you in the journalism, or what were you doing at What were you doing?
Yeah, it was a 1-year master's broadcast journalism, and it just kind of immersed me in classes. And there was a great voice coach there, Rick Wright, who helped you work with your voice a little bit. Syracuse has such a great program, and they've got their student station, which covers all sorts of Syracuse sports. But coming in as a master's, you have to kind of earn your keep, and there wasn't enough time for me to work Syracuse basketball games or football games. Guys had already paid their dues as freshmen, sophomores, got those opportunities. So I interned at a TV station, a radio station, and went through classes for a year and got my degree and kind of got the broadcast ball rolling.
So when you enrolled there, did you say, I want to be a sportscaster?
Yeah.
Is that why you did it?
I think I knew. My mom has always said, she recalls, me when we're playing in the backyard, playing flag football, playing and describing the action as we went along. And so she always thought that would be the case. And I don't kind of remember it that way, but when I went to Syracuse, I knew I wanted to at least give play-by-play a chance. It's such like a lot of fields, it's super competitive, and it's a lot about luck and opportunity. But it's worked out pretty well.
Yeah, I would think it'd be very competitive because a lot of guys go there who want to be play-by-play. And you mentioned competitive. So when I was weird where I played ball at Montana State. I knew I wasn't going to play in the NBA. Sadly, a lot of guys dream about it, but I said, I want a sportscast, I guess. And I also said I wanted to do late night privately in my head, but I didn't say that out loud. But I wanted to live in California. I grew up in Minnesota, and I said, I want a sportscast, but I only want to do it in California. And I was applying at the local news at Palm Desert outside of Palm Springs.
Right.
And I'm reading about you, and you got to go to San Diego. How did that work out?
Well, I met my wife at Syracuse. She was finishing up her joint broadcast and law school degree. And so I spent 1 year in Vermont after Syracuse doing as kind of a ski reporter and doing snow reports on the radio, like people might hear traffic reports. We did ski reports, and we're on like 100 stations every morning, just giving, here's the update from, and we'd have a computer that would put out the areas in that market. And so that you'd give updates on how much fresh snow, how many runs, all the terrain parks, all this kind of stuff. But then when she finished up, she was from California, and she said, you want to go to California? I said, that sounds delightful. Let's do that. And so we chose San Diego, and we kind of, that was our starting off point.
Wow. And you were able to get a job there. I thought it would be so competitive.
It's, it was super competitive. I went there without knowing anyone. I didn't have a single lead when I got there. And the first job I had there in San Diego was delivering pizzas on the not exactly the rush hour from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. At a place called Papa John's, which is, I think it just kind of kicked in or was in its infancy stages. So not exactly making a lot of money on the old 10 to 4 shift of delivering pizzas through Pacific Beach and San Diego and La Jolla in that area. But then, I called everybody in town, and one guy called me back, and his name is Hank Bauer. He played for the Chargers. He was a fullback. He was a coach with the Chargers and a TV and radio sportscaster there. And he called me back, said, hey, here's my producer's number. Maybe something can work out. And sure enough, I got my foot in the door, and I never left that place, Channel 8. And they had a TV. They had an FM station, an AM station. They carried the Chargers, the Padres, the Aztecs. And so that really got the ball rolling for my career.
That's amazing. Do you love San Diego?
I do.
It's a beautiful area. I mean,
it's absolutely beautiful. It was a full circle moment when the Wolves played a preseason game this year in San Diego against Denver at the Sports Arena. It was so strange to be back in that town. And a lot has not changed. And I do miss, having been there for 10 years, I really miss the ocean. I miss the water.
Yep.
I really got into surfing and, just used every opportunity I could to get out there in the ocean. I do miss that. I do miss the weather, especially when we get towards February. This time of year up in Minnesota, Craig, it's not exactly ideal weather outside.
I never take it for granted. It gets sunny out here, and I just say I'm just so thankful. I'll tell you a weird story. I'm at ESPN in the mid-'90s, and we're in Bristol, Connecticut. It's in the middle of kind of nowhere. And some of the guys were telling me one day, ESPN almost moved out of Connecticut, but then they gave them a bunch of tax breaks. And I go, well, where did they almost go? San Diego. And I was like, you're kidding me. And I said, I'd be a cameraman there. I don't care. I just love the weather. It was like,
forget the tax breaks. I don't think a tax break's worth that.
So I love California. I assume you've been to Minnesota in a while. It's a great area. It's a great place, isn't it?
No doubt.
Especially the summers and the fall and everything.
Yeah.
You love it?
No, it's great. And it's, we've made this our home for almost 20 years and kids in the school system and all that. So we've come to love it. And you kind of put up with the winters. I mean, we just had a winter storm. I mean, it's nice today because it's sunny and about 30 degrees, but we just got 6 to 8 inches of snow just 2 days ago. So the back is still sore. My shoulders are a little bit feeling it a little bit after shoveling and snow blowing. Right.
So you're infamous, of course, for the Ed Malloy call.
Ed Malloy.
Do people give you a lot of they give you a lot of attention for that? People say, hey, you're the Ed Malloy guy.
That's probably the biggest thing. That was a play for people that don't know. Was probably, I always forget what year it was. It was either 2013 or 2014, right after, kind of between Thanksgiving and Christmas, maybe Christmas to New Year's, somewhere in there. And Kevin Love got fouled on a potential game-tying three that was not called. Ed Malloy and David Guthrie right there did not make the call. And because Craig, you'll remember this because the theme that year, Kevin Love was a part of the team. Obviously, he was the focal point, and one of the talking points was that the Wolves, Kevin was not getting calls that we felt like he would deserve. He had become an upper echelon player, and the sort of the data was backing up that this guy doesn't get any calls down the late of games, and the Wolves were losing all these close games. The prior year, they had a couple of ejections that the NBA not rescinded, but said the next day that those were wrong. And so there kind of was this feeling for a good 6-month stretch that the Wolves were getting screwed on these kind of calls. And here's a call at the end of the game where Kevin Love goes up into the shooting motion, and you don't have to be a physics major to realize if the ball goes straight up in the air, Sean Marion came down on the arms of Kevin Love, which makes the ball go straight up. If he had gotten the ball would have gone down, not up. And then, of course, the next day, the league admitted that they missed the call. That doesn't do any good for you. But, that Ed Malloy call kind of, went viral for lack of a better term. And, I still to this day, people will text me or hit me up on Twitter. And, even if it's a random Tuesday night in Phoenix, a Suns Rockets game, someone will be like, hey, Ed Malloy's in the building tonight. I know where Ed Malloy is at all times, thanks to people and thanks to that call.
So people listening and watching, Allan went ballistic and screamed Ed Malloy when he found out he was the ref that missed the call. Oh, Ed Malloy, whatever. Oh, Ed Malloy. And have you met Ed?
I have not gone face to face with him. Jim Peterson took it upon himself 5 years later. We're courtside. He's helping me out on radio for a broadcast. He's like, we're just about to go on the pregame show. And I'm like, I'm going to set you up with the keys to the game here, Jim. He's like, okay, good. He's like, you know what? You take it. I'm going to go talk to Ed Malloy right now. This is 4 minutes before the game starts. I'm like, I got to fill this whole segment by myself. He's like, yeah, you'll be fine. And he just walks off. So he goes and talks to Ed Malloy, and he tries to bring it up, but obviously Ed's not exactly thinking the way Jim is and what I am. And so he has a little tough time understanding what he's actually asking, from what game, from what year. Eventually he said that he does remember the game and he lost sleep over the call. He claims he had not heard my call of it.
That's not true.
Which I don't know. We kind of doubted. I don't know.
Right.
It's funny where we broadcast from on that call. One thing I liked about not being courtside, we were our broadcast position is up off the floor. So we're top of the lower bowl, is that I just called it from what I saw. And then when I go ballistic, you can hear me looking at the replays that are coming up on my monitor.
Correct.
And all of a sudden you see this foul committed, and then the camera just pans up to Ed Malloy, and that's when I just snapped. And Ed Malloy was one of the guys the prior year who had messed up a call against us. And so, and he's just, sometimes when there are referees that carry themselves a certain way, and he's sort of got this sort of arrogance about him that makes it easy to dislike it when you think a call goes against you from him. Right. So Yeah, it turned out to be a pretty. Your hope is hoping your moment's going to be some positive game winner or something like that, right? But turns out to be an Ed Malloy call. So I know I'll take it.
And the announcers, you guys don't get fined for criticizing the refs. The players and coaches will.
Yep.
So you've never heard any feedback from, hey, settle down on that?
Well, it's hard for them to. You can get some complaints. I did hear a little bit that the league wasn't exactly happy with that. But on the other hand, they don't really have a leg to stand on because the very next day they admitted the call was wrong. So if you don't want me, I was talking to Chris Finch about this. You go into a game. We have I don't come in with a preconceived notion of going after somebody, a player or an opposing referee or anything like that. It's about the game. That's why I love the game. You never know what's going to happen. Who's going to be the hero? Who's going to be the villain? I don't go in, looking to pick on the referees. It's dependent on their job, not and how they perform.
Speaking of arrogant referees, Scott Foster, and they've written about him. They've written about him being arrogant. And Finchy says, if you coaches challenge on a Scott Foster call, not going to get turned over. It's not going to get changed. I mean, do you ever criticize Scott Foster in a broadcast?
Sure I do. And I think let's point this out too. When I say arrogance, I think part to last as long as those guys have, Ed Malloy, Scott Foster, Tony Brothers, you have to have some sort of arrogance about yourself, because if you don't, you don't last long in this league. Right. So I don't mean to pick that apart from these guys, but there is definitely that level, the way they carry themselves. So Scott Foster had the famous untucked jersey call against the Timberwolves, against the Oklahoma City Thunder years ago. And he calls Jordan Bell, of all people, checking in late in the game for not having an untucked jersey because Chris Paul's yelling to Scott Foster, untucked jersey, untucked jersey. Now, these are two people that despise each other, Scott Foster and Chris Paul. Yeah. And I asked Chris Paul about this. I was like, hey, the untucked jersey thing. He just smiled. This is last year. So it's many, many years after it. I go, is that the only time you and Scott Foster have agreed on anything? And he kind of thought for a second. And he goes, yeah, I think so. It's probably the last time we had not a contentious conversation either.
Right.
But Scott Foster decides to listen to Chris Paul, call a technical, which a delay of game, which was our second of the game, resulted in a technical free throw. And it plays out that OKC, because of that point, they still needed a length of the court pass from Steven Adams to Dennis Schroeder. They lay it up and in, and that forces overtime, and the Wolves lose in overtime. Now it goes down in a miserable Wolves season that didn't result in anything. It didn't cost us a playoff spot, but the untucked jersey. And then that created, Craig, you remember the stretch for like 3 or 4 more weeks, refs were calling it all over the league. It started a trend. It got out of control. It's all started with Scott Foster.
That's so silly.
I mean, it's unbelievable.
I go to the playoff games at Target Center, and I'm fortunate because of my friend Charlie Swanson. I get courtside, and Scott Foster does these little wind sprints warming up, and he ran by us, and I just put my hand out just for fun, and he slapped it. Give me 5. Like, it was just funny, but he's got an ego. He definitely has an ego.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think there is something to that about refs not wanting to overturn their own calls. You've got to factor that in when you're deciding whether or not to challenge a play. I think that's why you see, especially the Wolves, who've been really successful on challenges, only stick to the sure things, the ball out of bounds, off of so and so, when there's clear cut evidence. Because like on a foul call, I think refs will default to how can we back up the call that we made? And if then it gets in, there's always contact on every play, so it's tough to get a fair ruling, I think, on what's marginal, what's not marginal on a foul call. That's why a lot of teams just wait for the out of bounds type of plays or things that are more clear cut.
So we're all excited. I know he didn't do much last night against Dallas, but Ayo Dosunmu.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like he might be the missing piece, because I was like, I want a guard. I want to, somebody who doesn't turn it over, but he just kind of does everything well.
He does.
And I didn't necessarily want a superstar because I didn't think we needed a superstar. He's just a really, really good player, in my opinion. Yeah. So my friends are so excited. Are you excited? Is the team excited about this guy, Ayo Dosunmu?
Absolutely. Yeah. You're right. If you acquire a superstar, guess what? It blows up the entire everything you've built over the last 3 or 4 years, because you'd have to lose the pieces necessary to bring in the superstar. And so I think Ayo fits perfectly. I mean, I was just talking to Jim Peterson about this on the broadcast the other night. Think back 3 or 4 weeks ago before Bones Highland started playing pretty consistently. The Wolves really just had Naz Reid as your only kind of bench production. Mike Conley wasn't giving you great minutes, or the minutes he was giving you weren't great. Bones Highland wasn't consistent. Jalen Clark really hasn't stepped up in that role. TJ Shannon's been hurt. And you add someone that's right in the running for sixth man of the year along with Naz Reid. Those guys both average 15 points a game. Now you've got Bones, who's has been consistent for the last 3 to 4 weeks now. All of a sudden, Chris Finch has got some options off this bench. Now TJ Shannon's healthy. We didn't see him last night. Jalen Clark, is there if you need him. And we saw Johan Berenger, get some minutes last night. Obviously, he's going to get some more minutes because Rudy is going to be suspended for Sunday's game against Philadelphia. The flagrant foul is really starting to add up for him. So I think when you look at the bench from 3 or 4 weeks ago to what it is now, it's shocking how you may have just gone from like a bottom 5 bench to maybe a top 5 bench. Yeah,
he's special. I mean, I don't think they should disrupt the chemistry and start him, but I think he's really good and he should get a lot of minutes. And I mean, when I heard his name mentioned a few weeks before, the different guards, they're looking at Colin Gillespie from the Suns and Colin Sexton and all these different guys. I'm a field goal percentage guy. He's a career 50% field goal shooter, and then he's shooting 45 on threes this season. It's just like, and then he has the thing that everyone notices, his burst of speed, his speed in the open court where he's straight line to the rim. It's like, this guy is special. Yeah. And I think he's a smart passer. I think might be a better passer than some of the other guys we have on the team. So we're all in this Ayo mania right now. And
when he gets out on the break, there was one of his first couple of games. He was out there with Bones Highland, and they had a 2-on-1. And I mean, it was a blur going up the floor. And other teams may have speedsters. The Wolves have never really had that kind of burst, or at least in recent memory. And I just remember thinking, wow, that happened fast. Ayo and Bones running the floor. And that's impressive. The other thing, you can just plug and play him. He can play with anybody out there. Yeah. Chris Finch was talking about this before the game last night, that, we'd like to try him with certain lineups, but, sometimes that gets haywire depending on foul situations or what the opponents are doing. You just put him out there. He can work with just about everybody because he does so many things well. He can be an efficient scorer, that 3-point shooting you mentioned. He's built solidly, so I think he can be a pretty good defender. Yeah. He just do a lot of different things. So he's really fast. He's a serious guy too. I talked to him a little bit just the other day, and he's a really faith-based guy, and he credits that and being healthy for having this kind of career year. And so I think Wolves fans are already loving him, and I just think it's going to get better and better.
Well, there were a lot of Bulls fans I saw make comments tweeted out when the Wolves got him that you're going to love this guy. He was a fan favorite. Yeah. And I don't know if you know the politician David Axelrod, who's from Chicago. He tweeted, "Hey, Timberwolves fans, you just got a good one. You just got a good one in Ayo." So I'm fired up. The other thing I wanted to say is, I always look at the other teams to see if there's a dominant team in the NBA to see if we can. I think we can play with everybody. I think we can play with OKC. Yep. And so now I'm saying maybe we're an underrated team to get there this year, and Ayo helps. And I also say Rudy can't play like this forever. You got to go now. Otherwise, it's going to be a different type of team with Ant in the future because Rudy might not be a part of it. Rudy's playing extremely well this year. I think he's moving well.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he's been awesome. I mean, and I mean, he's put himself right there again for Defensive Player of the Year. I know the national, perception of Rudy is always, it's been really surprising. I've got a number of people I know with the Utah Jazz, and they went through this when they had Rudy. They talked about how dominant he is defensively, how he changes opponents' shot selection, even beyond the block shots. It's the shots he deters that's even greater than the shots he blocks. And he never got the respect in Utah, and he hasn't gotten it here. And every time you see Rudy have a great stretch, usually somebody like Draymond Green or Shaq will open their mouth and they'll just cuss him out, or just kind of dismiss everything he does, and it's all ludicrous. Yeah. That Western Conference Finals where Draymond was a part of the TNT broadcast was an absolute disaster.
Couldn't stand it. Yeah.
It's just like, even when you have Luka Doncic up on your stage and Luka is going, giving Draymond Green the side eye, going, he's a legit player. Why are you crapping on him?
I know he bothers people because he's not polished offensively.
Mm-hmm.
But if you take these other 7-footers, they don't know how to deter shots like Rudy. He did something where he has a feel for the game, altering shots, blocking shots, grabbing all the boards that other 7-footers don't do.
Yeah.
And so he has a skill, and that's why he's Defensive Player of the Year.
He's so smart defensively. He is still number one. Teams think they can isolate Rudy and pull him out to the perimeter.
Yeah.
But good luck. I'll take that every day, because Rudy's the number one ISO defender in the NBA. And time again, they pull him out and they try to work him. And guess what? They end up missing shots. And there are some famous ones where, Luka hits the step back three over him. I mean, that's unguardable. That's not Rudy Gobert defense. That's Luka being a superior offensive player. He's so smart on the pick and roll. He's the reason the Wolves have had a top 10 defense all 3 years. Yeah, I mean, Craig, it's incredible. Before Rudy got here, the Wolves had one top 10 defense in their entire franchise history.
Yeah.
In 3 years with Rudy, they've had 3 top 10 defenses.
Right.
That's not a coincidence.
And isn't the big stat this year when he's on the bench, the defense really suffers?
Oh, it goes down like 10 points. I mean, he's third in the league in defensive rating. So when he's on the floor, the Wolves are at a 108 defensive rating, giving up 108 points per 100 possessions. And when he steps off the floor, it's at a 118. I mean, it's that much of a drop off.
Right.
And that's where most of his value is.
So fan favorite is also Johan Berger.
Yeah.
How raw do you think he is? I mean, it's so exciting for us. Jim Pete said it when he gets on the court where we all get excited.
Yeah.
But how raw is he? Do you think he'll play in the playoffs? Do you think he's a couple years away, or what do you think? I think the biggest deterrent for him, deterrent's not the right word, the biggest roadblock to him playing more is just the fact that Julius Randle, Naz Reid, and Rudy Gobert don't miss games. They're stalwarts. I mean, the Wolves have been such a healthy team through the last couple of years. And I think a guy like Luka Garza ran into the same problem the last 2 years. There was no playing time for him. Right. Chris Finch can try to go 3 bigs at a time and create some more minutes, but he has a hard enough time getting, Rudy, Naz, and Julius the minutes they need in a 48-minute game. And so I think that's the biggest thing. I don't know if raw would be the term I would use, because I think he already looks pretty polished. Like, obviously there's a ways to go, but he comes in for 5 minutes in the second quarter last night and blocks 2 or 3 shots and is a real force defensively. He really keeps things simplified. He doesn't try to do too much. He knows what his role is. And that's what coaches always ask of you, right? Star in your role. Well, we just want you to be a rim protector, be solid defensively, get to the rim at the other end, finish off alley-oops, get offensive rebounds, those type of things. And so unless something were to happen ahead of him in the rotation, he's probably not a part of the playoff rotation. But boy, anytime you can get him minutes, I think you got to find a way to do that, because he can have such a big impact, and he's clearly the future at one of those spots going forward for Minnesota. Yeah. So Anthony Edwards, one of the top players in the league. It must be a joy for you to broadcast those games.
Yeah.
I just wanted to ask you, I think it's kind of amazing that he came into the league. I'm going to use the word raw again. No, but his jump shot was okay. Pulled it back a little bit. Yeah. And then he changed it, in my opinion, and he sometimes denies it, but he puts it in front more, and he really worked on his form.
Yeah.
And somehow he, as a 3-point shooter, led the league in makes last year, but his career 3-point percentage is better than LeBron, Kobe, and D Wade. Do you think it's amazing that he could become such a good 3-point shooter? Because these other guys can't do it. How does that work?
Yeah, he puts the time in. Jason Kidd was talking about this before the game last night. He is one of those guys, speaking of Ant, who puts his time in the gym. And he's like, people don't see it. And obviously there are no cameras in there in the off season when he's working out every single day. Chris Hines is his player development coach and assistant coach who's worked so much with him. And they've just continued to add to his game. And that's why his mid-range shot has gotten better. That's why his step-back 3 is now one of the best in the league.
Yeah.
And it's really underrated what the jump he made from 2 years ago to last year. I mean, to go to lead the league in 3-pointers made and shoot 40%, you're talking about efficiency and volume at a rate that we've only really seen Steph Curry do. And he basically jumped to that from, maybe a little bit better than average to elite at step back threes. It's just incredible that he hits that shot too last year at a 40% clip.
There was a guy, I won't mention his name, but he's a local writer, sports writer in Minnesota. And at the first few years, he goes, just drive. You can't shoot jump shots, Ant. And of course he improves. I had one last basketball question. Then it's time for the top 5 movies of all time. Do you have private conversations, inside information with either assistant coaches or people on the organization during like the Giannis rumors? Do you know that it's hard on the players who are mentioned as possibly going out? How does that work?
It is. It's a tough time. It is a tough time. And I think you take your cues from the head coach and Chris Finch. He's just, it's something that players have to go through. It happens every offseason. It happens every trade deadline. And he talks about how you try to be as transparent as you can with players, but a lot of that stuff happens pretty quick. And maybe you can't afford, like a front office can't afford to talk to a player. I try not to personally. I try to just get through that period of time without, poking my head in and butting into places. I leave the front office alone, leave the coaching staff alone, kind of leave the players alone. I mean, they're dealing with a lot there. You just try to be a smiling face and happy and keep the mood good and those kind of things. Because you are on buses with these guys. You're at shoot-arounds, you're at practices. And I kind of don't touch on any of that because I'm not paid to break that kind of news anyway. So you kind of let that kind of period pass. And then, maybe a week or two later, you talk to a guy on the side. And go, how tough a time was that? He's like, it really sucked. I mean, I didn't know if I'm going to rip my kids out of school and move to another city. I didn't know how that was going to work. If I'm going to end up in another, we really like it here, and all those things. And so there's no doubt it affects players, it affects teams, it affects performances for the week or two leading up to that trade deadline. And then it's really a good thing, I think, that the All-Star break comes when it does after the trade deadline. It lets everybody kind of decompress and move on. And then you get dialed in for the Wolves. It was the final 26 games after the All-Star break.
Good stuff. I really appreciate it. And now there's pressure on you, and I hope you can handle the pressure. But top 5 movies of all time. I'm predicting a Boston area movie. I won't say which one, but I just want to hear Allan Horton's top 5.
You've read that correctly, by the way. There is going to be one Boston area movie in that. I'll start this off by saying I'm not a big fan of ranking things. I don't come up with lists very often. That's it. Maybe I have to get into that more because on TV we always are ranking things. We got to put things up. Jim Pete's excellent at that. Mm-hmm. He's actually, he's always asking me, hey, what's your top 10 rebounders in the end? I'm like, I don't know. Where am I putting Moses Malone? I don't know. I don't know. All right. So top 5 movies. I'm going to start off with, this one was right in my wheelhouse as a teenager, a comedy back in 1985. Starring Chevy Chase, the movie Fletch. Fletch was just incredible, and it just resonates to this day. I still will quote that movie to my high school friends. We'll just text each other with lines, and I just love that movie.
There's a guy named Lon Rosen who just got promoted. He was worked with the Dodgers. Now he's with the Lakers, but he was Magic Johnson's manager at the beginning. They're friends. Okay. Lon Rosen. I know Lon, and his favorite movie is Fletch. He talks about it. Fletch. Of course, Fletch wore a Laker jersey. He did in the film. But yeah, a lot of people like Fletch. Yeah, that's
how about Fletch? Yeah. He just takes a bite out of the guy's arm. He's got the afro going. That's Chevy Chase at his best right there. All right, I'll give you the Boston area movie second, and no order on these rankings. Again, correct. These are just mine. So I did struggle coming up with 5. I thought, okay, don't put too much pressure on yourself. Just come up with 5. And then you start thinking about it. You get in your own head, and then I've been debating it ever since you told me like a week and a half ago. It's been a struggle. But I'll put Good Will Hunting as one of my top 5 movies. Matt Damon and Ben Affleck. It's a tremendous, just a really good movie. Yeah, I love it.
Is that your only Boston area movie?
It is.
Okay, because what I thought, and I always tell people, I used to do this at dinner. I said, it's so much pressure on you. can change your list 5 minutes later. Just give me 5. But there are 2 Boston area movies that I like. One is rated much higher. They're both rated high. The Town is
Yeah.
like a 7.5, and the Departed is 8.5.
Yeah.
And
I
like
would have put
both
The
of
Town
those.
higher. The Town I had to push out of my top 5. I would have had The Town higher. I still like The Departed, but I like I do like The Town and Ben Affleck in that one.
Yeah, I rewatch those at least once a year, sometimes once every 6 months. Very good movies. Number 3 for Allan Horton, top 5 movies of all time.
I'm gonna go with Shawshank Redemption.
Oh,
which is kind of a New England movie too, I guess, because isn't that prison up in supposed to be up in Maine or something?
I believe so.
Yeah, so
that's a good one. I have people mention that in their top 5. That's a good one.
Yeah, it's on all the time, and it's just you can pick it up anywhere. It's it's got some darkness to it, obviously, but it's a great story with Tim Robbins and Morgan Freeman. So Shawshank Redemption is always up there for me. This one is I just love this movie, The Thomas Crown Affair.
Wait, which one?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, the most recent one with Pierce Brosnan, not the original.
Steve McQueen and Faye Dunaway is the original. Right?
Yeah, which I have not seen. I should watch that one. Do you like that one better?
Sadly, it's the only one I've seen. I haven't seen the Pierce Brosnan.
Oh, wow.
My friends say you have to watch it.
Yeah.
So I have it on my list. I have not seen that yet.
It's with Rene Russo and Pierce Brosnan. It just it leaves what's the term? Suspension of disbelief a little bit with the stealing of the painting a little bit.
Yeah.
But it's smart and it's fun and it's a little Dennis Leary mixed in there too. Yep. So I'm a big fan of that one. My fifth one, I'm going with Die Hard.
Oh,
I just love Die Hard. It's a great action movie. It's just Bruce Willis at his peak, and just the original Die Hard. Just great.
Yeah,
great villain.
That's a good list. I'll quickly tell you mine because I haven't had a new guest on in a while. We haven't done the top 5 in a while. I always rotate my 5th because I don't know why, but I'll just give you the 4 that are constant. I'm a Hitchcock fan, North by Northwest. A lot of my films are older. The Graduate, Chinatown, Sunset Boulevard, like those. Then I rotate it. Sometimes I say Sideways. Sometimes I say Tootsie. I could name another Hitchcock. But those are my 5. I'm just going to give you a couple. You ever seen The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo with Daniel Craig? You ever seen that? That's a good one. You ever seen Zodiac?
I have not.
David Fincher, Zodiac. And then there's some that I rewatch that are not like top 5 movies, but like In the Line of Fire with Clint Eastwood and Malkovich.
Really good.
That's a good one. I like No Way Out with what's his face, Kevin Costner.
Kevin Costner, yeah.
So those are the ones I rewatch. The Firm a lot.
Firm's always good.
Yeah,
I got to give you the 2 that I left out. A tough time leaving out. One was The Town. Another one is Almost Famous. Really enjoyed that movie.
Yeah. That's a good one.
And then one more recently that I just really enjoy was Secret Life of Walter Mitty with Ben Stiller.
I've not seen it.
It's just got some. It's just it's nothing. There's no bells and whistles to it. It's just kind of a cool story and lots of great scenery and music and Kristen Wiig's in it, and I really enjoy that one. I wanted to put that one in there, but
yeah. So the other ones I watch, I was thinking, because you guys are on the road a lot, so you watch movies in the hotel. But I grew up watching James Bond.
Yeah.
And then I really like Daniel Craig as James Bond. And then I like Mission Impossible. I like Tom Cruise, but some of them get a little too crazy. They've made too many of them. And the one I didn't watch now is kind of my favorite. I rewatched Jason Bourne. I didn't watch it because it was all serious. There was no little light comedy like there is a little bit in Mission Impossible and Bond.
Yeah, you're
but
right.
Now I like that there's nothing. It's all serious. And I rewatch the Bourne series over and over again. I like Brian Cox. I like Pamela Landy. I like when they're arguing about Bourne. You ever watch the Bourne series?
Absolutely. Great action. You're right. I don't think there's there's not a whole lot of smiling. You're not seeing a lot of teeth in that movie. It's serious business. I guess when you're Jason Bourne, you got to be serious all the time. You're trying to figure out who you are.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think I find it comedic sometimes that it's so serious. And, he's looking in on her and he goes, Pamela, you look tired. And then she turns around and it's like that stuff is very entertaining.
Actually, the only part where he laughs is that in one of them, he finds the girl that he left and he meets her in Greece, and she's renting bikes and stuff.
Yeah.
And they have a kind of a funny moment. That's about as funny as that gets. But it's a sweet moment at the end of the movie. It's great to tie it together.
Yeah. Great. Thanks for doing that. We finish up very quickly with the Life Gorgeous quiz with the voice of the Wolves, Allan Horton. Life Gorgeous quiz, simple questions, profound insights. First concert you went to?
I think my first concert was a Grateful Dead show.
Wow.
So
really?
I was in 7th grade, and my buddy, his parents my buddy had a older sister who wanted to go to the Dead. She was like 4 or 5 years older, and so their parents took the sister and a friend, and then my friend Matt and myself. And so we were at the Saratoga Performing Arts Center, outdoor venue in just north of Albany, New York. Great venue. I've been to dozens and dozens of shows there. They got indoor seating, and then you can just wander around in the grass field and still see the show. And so I was pretty confused, didn't know a lot about the Grateful Dead in 7th grade. A lot of weird questions were being asked of us if we wanted certain things. So that was my first show. But the first real one I wanted to go to was Foreigner and Joe Walsh. Saw them in the Worcester Spectrum, and that was pretty early too. That was probably in high school sometime.
Man, you don't hear a lot of 7th graders going to see the Dead.
No, I thought that was pretty unique. I think I'm pretty rare in that regard.
Favorite restaurant in Minneapolis?
You know, this one's tough because we don't go out to eat a lot. The family usually eats in. I mean, we're usually it's usually pizza or Thai food or Mexican. I don't even know I don't think I have an answer. I guess I go Pizzeria Lola. We're kind of close to that in Southwest Minneapolis, and so that's a nice little pizza place that's got a little great environment there to it. So I'll go with that, Pizzeria Lola.
Sounds good. You've never been to Manny's or Mason Margot or Murray's Steakhouse?
So I haven't been to Mason Margot. I know David Fema, the chef there, is fantastic. I probably should have chosen one of his places, Fema's, Mason Margot, and I haven't been to Manny's either. I got to get someone with the Wolves to take me to dinner or something.
Yeah, I'll tell A-Rod to take you to dinner there.
Okay, that'd be good. I just saw him the other day. He's eager for the second half of the season. He can't wait.
I can't either. I was going to do, I make fun of my Minnesota friends who only go to Minneapolis and they don't go to St. Paul. That's where my dad worked. I was going to do favorite restaurant in St. Paul, but I know that's going to be a dead end.
You read that perfectly again. We don't go out to dinner in Minneapolis, so we're definitely not going out in St. Paul, which is considerably further.
Okay, final question.
Yep.
Hopefully there'll be an answer here. And it's one of my favorites because I don't eat a lot of carbs, and I do like sandwiches. So top 3 sandwiches of all time.
Oh, I was wondering if this was coming. Top 3. Wow. I love sandwiches. I love everything about them. You know, if there was like one food I could have on a desert island, it would be the sandwich, probably because you can do it so many different ways. Yeah. Starting with the bread and then all the condiments and how you want to go. Do you want it toasted? Do you want it baked? Do you want it fried? You know, you can do all sorts of things. I know the Reuben has gotten a lot a play on your show. Yeah, the Reuben is fantastic.
I like the Reuben.
I love a Reuben with pastrami.
Yeah, I like pastrami.
Yep.
Obviously, it's healthier. Finchy pointed out there's a thing called the Rachel, which is with smoked turkey, which is healthier than pastrami.
Probably,
but just the fact that you got that sauerkraut and the sauce and the cheese, I just love it.
Anytime I go to New York, I am finding my way to a pastrami sandwich. I'll even do one where, I like pastrami with melted Swiss and some coleslaw on it.
Oh.
And maybe you can put some Russian dressing on there too, just like a Reuben. But any kind of mixture, those combinations, I'll do. I love going to New Orleans and getting a poor boy. I'm a fried shrimp poor boy guy. You put some hot sauce on that remoulade sauce. Nice baguette is just fantastic. And I think if I have my choice and I go to the market and I've always been kind of an Italian sandwich guy and specifically salami. So give me some hard salami, a Genoa salami. I can go either way. A salami and Swiss, and then let me put some lettuce and sometimes I'll go pickles, sometimes tomato. I've really been getting into the last couple of years some hot giardiniera, kind of that mixture of vegetables. It's really spicy.
Wow.
I think that's fantastic to mix with a little mayo and some put some mustard on there too. I always have 3 kinds of mustard in my refrigerator at all times. So I can go yellow, I can go Dijon, I can go a little bit spicy, stone ground kind of thing. So
yeah.
Hopefully that's a little more information than you got
I like
on
it.
The restaurant question.
Well, I like it because I also have 2 mustards at home. I like mustard. And I'm really into Dijon right now, but I also have stone ground.
Yeah.
I don't like sweet. I don't have honey mustard. I just don't like sweet.
I don't like
now,
mustard either.
I'll just tell you my other 2 after the Reuben. I like chicken salad a lot, and I'll have it on toasted rye. I also like sourdough. The 2 breads that I like are sourdough and rye.
Yep.
I will have pumpernickel for a Reuben on occasion. And the other one, the third sandwich is controversial. Some people don't like it. The tuna melt.
Oh, delightful.
Yeah.
Open face. Or you're gonna close it up.
I always close it up.
Okay, you go either way. See, I love all of that. Everything
Yeah.
you just said. That's why I love the sandwich. I don't think there's a sandwich I dislike. I guess I'm old school too. We've never had a microwave. We use a toaster oven, so that's
Good.
perfect for
Yes.
toasting and going open face. And my wife brought home some egg salad a couple weeks ago.
Yes.
And that's a delightfully light sandwich too.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
tuna salad, chicken salad's great. Mix in some either some pickles in there or some celery to give it a little crunch.
Yes. Absolutely. What was I going to say? We do not own a microwave either. And my friend Ryan Russillo, I gave him this question, and these guys will do they'll go chicken parm sandwich. They'll say chicken parm, but I said tuna melt to him, and his response was, "Oh, you're not going back to work after that." Like his logic, his thing was, he was like, I guess he was thinking it's too strong of an odor and you can't go back to the office. I said, who cares? It's not about the office. Say it's on a Saturday. You're just, it's a sandwich. Don't worry about
You didn't qualify it by saying best sandwich at lunch when you have to go back to the office in the afternoon. Otherwise, mix in a piece of gum or brush your teeth again. That solves that problem.
Exactly.
It's like having onions. Like onions are obviously pretty strong, but if you can mix in brushing your teeth afterwards, you're good to go.
I have to have red onions on my chicken salad.
Red onions are great.
Yeah.
Nicely thin. I like them thin sliced.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, that was fun. We ended on a strong note.
Yeah, we did. I'll say. Sandwich talk. I'm starving now.
Thank you for your time. I appreciate it, Allan.
Craig, you got it anytime, man. And we're gonna see you in LA we're coming out to LA in the next couple
I
weeks.
have to go to the game. I think it's March 10th. Some guy has rented out some suite with a bartender, and he says you got to go.
That sounds.
And Austin Reeves is back, and we better win that game.
Yes,
man.
I know. We've lost a couple times to the Lakers early on. It's time for a little payback.
Absolutely.
Time for a little payback.
Thank you, sir.
You got it, Craig. Take care.
That's our show. We'll see you next time. And remember, young people, I'm proud of you.